let us start with the second unit of the IoT, Internet of Things. In the last class or in the before this period, we have studied the major components of IoT device and more about their features, characteristics, etc. in the previous unit. So let us brief or recollect our memories or the points regarding the first unit, that is the major components of the IoT devices. As we have seen already these units, so you might have understood what is the major role of these components. So let us utter it once again. The major components of the IoT devices are the control units, which are also known as the brains of the devices, and the sensors which help the IoT system to collect the data in the form of signals, and also the actuators which actuates or which triggers the various activities related to collecting the data from the physical environment, and the major components of this is the communication modules, which are required for the transmission of the data wherever it is required through the computer network or the internet, and also the power sources. So these all things we have studied in the previous classes. Now we'll start with the next unit, is programming the microcontroller for the IoT. So in this particular unit, we are going to discuss more about the sensors and the actuators with various examples, and also the importance of the cloud computing and its role in IoT, and also how to use the microcontroller platform to set up that particular board, and also how to write the programs for the Internet of Things, and also how to read the data from the sensors and the communication between the microcontroller and also the other devices, and how to make use of the communication technologies, because in the previous class we have studied about the various communication technologies that are required or that we are going to use it in the IoT domain, and how to connect with how to connect our IoT based system with the internet using Wi-Fi or Ethernet. So about this we are going to study in this particular unit. So let us start with the various sensors first, and then later we are going to study the actuators. So what are exactly the sensors? So let us, before discussing with virtual sensors, I want to tell how to design the IoT, and before going to develop any IoT based system, what you have to perform. That is what you have to understand. So what you have to understand is, before building any any IoT based system, what you have to do is, first you have to decide what all the devices that are needed to develop an IoT based system, and also what functions it has to provide for us. So if you understand these two things, then easily you can develop the any IoT based system. So what all devices are required? It means that which sensors, which actuators, and what type of microcontroller you need, and however the programming, we are going to use the embedded C only. So these all things, if you understand before building any IoT based system, then it will help you, or this work will make it easier, or this makes the development of any IoT based system easier. So let us have a look on this, what sensors are required, or what are the types of sensors. So if you know which all types of sensors are available and how they respond to the physical environment, then which are the different types of sensors, then you can easily select or choose any the number of sensors that and the type of sensor that you require for the IoT based system. So this will make your work easier if you know or if you study the different types of sensors first. So let us have a look on the sensor. But before starting with the different types of sensor, you should know what is a sensor and what is its function. So sensors are the devices which measure the physical quantities from the environment. So we can say that the main function of the sensor is to collect the information or some parameter through the physical environment, and also it doesn't have only the capacity of sensing or collecting the particular parameter from the physical environment, but the sensors have the capacity to detect as well as respond. They also have the capacity to detect as well as respond to the some physical parameters that it can do it from the physical environment. And also apart from these two, it can also convert the collected data from the physical environment and converts it into a signal, and this particular after conversion, this will be in the human readable format, so that every user can understand. For example, if it is representable in the form of a voltage or a current, or if you are using some digital the output devices, then it can be in a numerical format also. So if it is represented digitally, then it will be every user can understand what it exactly means or what data it has collected. So sensors are the devices which can perform these many things. That is, first, the sensors are the devices which can measure some particular parameters from the environment, and it can also detect and respond to the physical environment, as well as it has the capacity to convert the collected data into a human readable format. So now we have understood what are sensors. Now we are going to study what is the role of this in IoT. Why actually the sensors are required? Can anybody tell me why we need the sensors? Why we need it? Because other than the sensor, there are no other devices which can read the data from itself or from the physical environment on its own, and these collected data from the sensors will be either processed at the location, at its own location where the sensors are located, or else many a times it has to be sent over the internet to the other devices, to the other locations where the further processing of that data may happen. So in this way, sensors collect the data from the physical environment, and it also has the capacity to detect, respond, as well as it can convert, or the sensors can convert the collected data into human readable format, because many a times user cannot understand what exactly the inputs to the sensors. Unless it is converted into digital, it is very difficult. In some cases, becomes very difficult to read what are the inputs. Hence, the sensors are such devices which has all the capacities. Hence, the sensors can easily collect the data and respond to the physical environment, as well as it can convert them into a human readable format, so that the users can understand it, and further, if it is required, then it can be sent to the various locations where exactly the processing of this data will happen. So now we have understood what is the role of the sensor, or what exactly we mean by a sensor. Now, since this is a very important component, because the IoT design of the IoT system, it starts with the sensor only. So we need to understand what is a sensor, and before building any IoT based system, we need to know which are all the sensors that are available with us, and which sensors are useful in our application, because there are number of sensors available, actuators available, controllers are available, but still it is application dependent. So we need to know about these many components that are required to design an IoT based system. Now we will see which are the different types of sensors. So generally the sensors are divided into two categories, that is analog and digital. So why and before we discuss with the different types of analog and digital sensors, we know what is the difference between an analog signal and a digital signal. What do you mean by an analog signal? When the input or output which can be represented in a continuous manner or in a continuous form of in a continuous waveform, then we say that that particular signal is analog in nature, because they do not have any discrete values. At any particular moment of time, all the values are available. But what about the digital? The digital value or the digital input or output is always either it will be in the form of discrete values. So that is the difference between the analog and the digital. Hence, many a times what happens when we are building our own IoT based system, then many times the input or the output may be analog in nature. So in that particular situation, we need to make use of either analog sensor, and whenever our data, or that is the input or the output that we require in a digital form, then we have to make use of the digital sensors. Hence, there are many number of analog sensors as well as the digital sensors are available. So it can be broadly classified, the sensors can be broadly classified as analog and digital type. So let us start with the digital sensor. The digital sensor, the data conversion as well as the data transmission takes place in the form of a digital value. So the examples that we consider here are, for the digital sensors, are the button switch, which has only two states, and also the register, pull-up register and pull-down register. So why the pull-up and pull-down registers are considered as the examples for digital sensors? Other than this also we have many, there are many digital sensors available, but the pull-up register and pull-down registers are considered as the examples for digital sensors, because you can see in the pull-up register, one end of the register is connected to a positive supply and the other end is connected to a microcontroller. And in case of pull-down, in the similar way, one end of the resistance is connected to the negative or the ground, and the other end is again connected to the microcontroller. So in this way, there are three different common examples of the digital sensors that we most commonly use in the IoT based systems. Then other than these examples, there are many digital sensors which are also available. So you can see that they include the rotary encoders, digital tachometer, digital temperature sensor, etc. So there are many examples of digital as well as analog sensors, but these are few that I have quoted here. Now let us see more about the digital sensors, how they are connected with the microcontroller. As we know, that is from the previous unit, we know that what is the use of a microcontroller. Why microcontroller is required when we have sensors and actuators? So sensors are collecting the data, and they can sense or detect the data, and also have the capacity to convert the data into digital form. Then this performs the first part of the IoT. The sensor performs the first part of the function in case of IoT based system. Then actuators come. Actuators trigger these sensors to perform the given work. And apart from these two are available, then what is the need of the microcontroller unit? So the IoT based system, or the design of the IoT based system, is not only to collect and keep the data with it, because the actuators are triggering the devices which are called as the sensor, and sensors are in turn collecting the data from the environment. And after that, what should be done after that? So once the data is collected, then it has to be processed, and for processing as well as for the transmission, the microcontroller unit is required. Unless it is programmed, nothing will happen in the IoT based system. If you collect the data and the collected data is available, then what to do next? So, for the processing of this particular data, so we need a microcontroller. So, these sensors have to be connected to the microcontroller. So, in this particular diagram, you can see that a pull-up register that is represented by R. This is representing a pull-up register that is connected. One end of this is connected to the supply voltage, whereas the other end is connected to a microcontroller unit. So, this is our microcontroller unit. So, the one end of this is connected to the microcontroller unit and the other is connected to the positive supply. So, in this way, the pull-up register or the pull-down register, in case of pull-up register, one end is connected to positive supply, second end is connected to the microcontroller unit. In the same way, if you use a pull-down register, then one end of this will be connected to either ground or the negative supply and the other end will be connected to the microcontroller unit. And this K1 it represents a switch. So, in this way, if we are using a pull-up or pull-down register, then it can be connected to the microcontroller in this way. So, this is the brief introduction about the digital sensors. Now, we will talk more about the analog sensors. Analog sensors provide the output in the form of a continuous values or the continuous waveform. Now, there are many examples of the analog sensors. That is, the main examples of analog sensors include the humidity sensor, accelerometer sensor, pressure accelerometers are itself known as the accelerometer sensor, pressure sensors, light sensor, sound sensor, temperature sensor. There are so many examples of the sensors. So, these are all, we can list them as analog sensors. So, we know about the analog sensors, that analog sensors provide the output in the form of the continuous values. So, but when they are connected in the circuit or to the IoT based circuit, they act as again the resistors, and the value of the resistance it varies with, or the resistor it is a portion of a electronic device. Resistor it is a electronic device which lowers the voltage between the two terminals, because we know what is the relation between the voltage and the resistance. So, from this we can say that so if the resistance decreases, then the voltage increases or vice versa. So, in this way, if you are using when the analog sensors, when they are connected to the circuit, they act as resistors and its resistance varies inversely with that of the voltage. So, if the voltage increases, resistance decreases, and if the resistance decreases, then the voltage increases. So, we will see more about the analog sensors. The first analog sensor that we are going to discuss is the humidity sensors. That means humidity sensors are helpful in measuring, or they can capture the they can capture and measure the humidity from the environment. So, usually we denote or we represent the humidity in the form of the relative humidity, which is popularly known as RH. It means that the relative humidity so there are two types of humidity sensors, that is either they are capacitive or resistive. So, usually the capacitive sensors are more linear and they are more commonly used because its capacitance varies linearly with respect to the humidity, and also it can cover a maximum or a dynamic range from 0 to 100%. From the environment, whereas the resistive sensors, humidity sensors it can range. So that is why most applications make use of the capacitive sensors, humidity sensors. So we can find many applications for this type of humidity sensors, and the examples include some control systems in industries as well as in domestic. So it has various applications in office automation, automotive air control, home appliances, and industrial process control systems. So this is the brief explanation of what is humidity sensor. Now we will see how it looks. So this you can see the picture of a humidity capacitive type of humidity sensor and its capacitance. It varies with respect to the humidity, relative humidity from the physical environment. And the dielectric constant of the sensor, it changes with respect to the relative humidity from the physical environment. So the capacitance increases with respect to the relative humidity. That is why we say that there is a linear increase or decrease of the capacitance with respect to the relative humidity. So this is an example of a humidity capacitive type of humidity sensor. In many applications we want to measure the humidity, so that is why in that case, depending on the application, we can make use of either capacitive or resistive, but more oftenly or the capacitive type of humidity sensors are more commonly used in the IoT based. Now the second analog sensor is known as accelerometer sensor, which this particular accelerometers are the accelerometer sensors which can measure the acceleration. So the figure shows the accelerometer sensor and how it exactly works. The working principle says that the basic working principle of the accelerometer sensor is, consider that we are putting a heavy mass on a spring. Then when the mass is put on the spring, then the spring takes some time to come to rest, but it performs a displacement at that particular moment. When you put a heavy mass on a spring, it displaces, the spring displaces. So this displacement is exactly proportional to the acceleration produced. So when you put a heavy mass on the spring displaces and the acceleration is experienced by that particular spring. So the displacement that spring has achieved is directly proportional to the acceleration. So the acceleration is measured via the displacement, or since the displacement is directly proportional to the acceleration, then this type of accelerometer sensors can measure the acceleration based on the displacement that is produced. So this is the working principle of the accelerometer sensor. Now we will see again that in the accelerometer sensor also we have two types, that is the capacitive and the resistive capacitance or the capacitive and the resistive sensors. So in the capacitive accelerometer sensors, it makes use of capacitive sensing, and the variation in the capacitance, it produces an output voltage which depends on the distance between the two planar surfaces, and one or both of these plates are charged with an electric current, and change in the gap between the two plates, it changes the electrical capacity of the system. But however, the capacitive accelerometer sensors are having more advantages because they have high accuracy and stability, and also they are less prone to noise and variation with the temperature, and they dissipate less power, and they have larger bandwidth due to internal feedback circuit. So these are some of the advantages of the accelerometer sensor. And Before that, we didn't actually note what do you mean by acceleration. So the acceleration of any object is the rate at which the object changes its velocity. So in this way, whenever, and these particular sensors are mostly required in the automobile industry, where the speed, velocity, acceleration are important. So for example, whenever the object movement is required, whenever you want to measure the object movement, then with what speed it has done the movement, and what is velocity, what is its acceleration. So these all parameters are important mostly in the vehicular, the vehicular industry, so or the automotive industry. So that is why we are going to use these particular accelerometers in that particular automotive industry, or in some home applications or appliances where the speed or the velocity or the acceleration is important to measure. So in this way, there are two different types of accelerometer sensors, that is capacitive and another is the piezoelectric. So it is not the resistive, but it is the piezoelectric. So what do you mean by piezoelectric effect, and how the piezoelectric sensors, accelerometer sensors are designed, that we will see. So piezoelectric effect, it is the piezoelectric sensors, they have two. During the design of these piezoelectric sensors, there are two metal, the certain type, then there is the opposite polarity will accumulate on the opposite crystal, and this particular phenomenon is known as piezoelectric effect. So in the piezoelectric accelerometer sensors, this particular charge accumulate on the crystal, and this is translated, that is, this accumulation of charge converted or it is translated into a voltage, or is known as the voltage, and based on, and this particular accumulation is proportional to the acceleration that we want to measure through accelerometer sensors. So that is why these are also known as the piezoelectric sensors, where we find that the piezoelectric effect is used in designing these piezoelectric sensors. And the piezoelectric sensors they only respond to the AC phenomenon such as vibration or shock, but not the DC phenomenon such as acceleration of gravity. So in this case, whenever you want to measure the the acceleration, then this piezoelectric type of accelerometer sensors can be used. And these, however, are inexpensive. They have a dynamic range, but whenever the high quality output is required, then these may become little expensive also. But usually they are inexpensive and they respond to the particular parameters like the temperature, sound and pressure. Hence, we can make use of these piezoelectric sensors to measure the acceleration in the automotive industry or in some home appliances also. Now, we have discussed about the humidity sensor, that is an example of the analog sensor, and also we have discussed about the accelerometers. The accelerometer sensor which measures the acceleration of a particular object, then we can also call them as the accelerometers. Now, the third example for the analog type of sensors is the pressure sensor. So, the pressure sensors are used in many applications, because usually in our day-to-day life, the pressure sensors have become an inevitable part. So how it has become inevitable? Because in our day-to-day life, we can see the use of the pressure sensor in the mobile phones, calculators, then biometric machines, etc., etc. Personal digital assistant. There are so many components that we use in our daily life which makes use of the pressure sensor. In the vehicles, to close the window, to open the door, to lock the vehicles like cars. So in many examples, we can find the use of these particular pressure sensors. So these sensors, a pressure sensor, it is a device which senses the pressure and converts it into an analog electric signal. I told you this is an example of an analog sensor because it produces the analog signals. Then these are widely used in automobile manufacturing, aviation. What do you mean by aviation? What is aviation? Aviation is nothing but the aircraft industry, where the various types of aeroplanes, helicopters are designed. So it is required in the design of many automobile devices, manufacturing of various aircraft. Then biomedical measurements. What are biomedical measurements? Can you give some examples for the biomedical instruments? Like it may be the X-ray machines, echocardiogram, EMG. So there are various instruments that are used in the medical field. So all those are known as the biomedical instruments, and also they are used in air conditioning devices, hydraulic measurements, etc. So that is why in our day-to-day life, the pressure sensors, the use of pressure sensors have become inevitable. So let us see some more examples where the pressure sensors are used. So those are the touch screen devices. As I told you, the mobile phone is an example, calculator is an example, then the personal digital assistants are examples. So in this way, we make use of many pressure sensors based devices in our day-to-day life. Then automotive industry, that is the modern cars have used thousands of these sensors. So few of them are pressure sensors. Then biomedical instruments, then industrial uses are aviation and marine industry. So all these are making use of the pressure sensors. Now the temperature sensor. Example is the temperature sensor, and as the name indicates, these sensors make use of they measure the temperature from the environment. Then thermistor is an example of this particular temperature sensor. But before that thermistor, because we are not used to this thermistor, so thermistor is a sensor which measures the temperature depending on the resistance value. So the resistance that it measures is directly dependent on the temperature. So you can see the diagram of a thermistor which has two leads, and this, wherever you attach this thermistor, then it measures the surrounding temperature through that particular system. Then, but before that thermistor, are you used to any type of the temperature sensor in our day-to-day life? Are you using any example of a temperature sensor? Yes? The most basic temperature sensor that we use in our day-to-day life is the thermometer, right? Thermometer, because everybody know what is a thermometer. So thermometer, it is a basic temperature sensor which senses the temperature from the human body. So wherever if you want to measure the temperature of a water, boiling water or a cold water, so it measures, the temperature sensors can measure the degree of coolness or hotness, we can say. It can also measure the temperature, high temperature as well as low temperature. So we can say that it can measure the degree of hotness or coolness of the environment. So whenever it is attached with any particular object, then it can measure the temperature of that particular object. So thermistor is also an example whose resistance varies with respect to the temperature. So as and when the temperature increases, the resistance increases. As soon as the temperature decreases, the resistance decreases. So for that, it has a diode inside the thermistor. We will see how it can measure the degree of hotness or coolness and finally converts it into a readable unit. Because how do you read the temperature? The temperature is usually, if the meters are analog, then you have to read the, for example, if it is an analog thermometer, then you should know how to read the value from the thermometer. If it is digital one, then it is easier for everyone to read the numbers. So like that, it will convert the temperature into a readable value. Now, but the thing is, if you want to see the temperature, if you want to measure the temperature, body temperature of a particular person, you can use the thermometer. If you want to measure the hotness of the boiling water, then you can use the thermometer. But how about the measuring of the temperature of some structures, large structures or dams or the bore wells or the soil? So how to measure this? And still there are examples of worst cases where you want to measure the temperature of a particular nuclear power unit. Then you know that the nuclear power units are dangerous, you cannot reach them. So in that case, but still we want to measure the temperature from such units. So how to do that? So you know that now, if you want to measure the temperature, then you have to attach that particular meter, temperature meter, from which you are going to measure the temperature. Through that meter you are going to measure the temperature. So that has to be attached to a particular object. But in case of the particular nuclear power unit, how you are going to measure? If you want to measure the temperature from the large structures, then how you are going to do that? Suppose, for example, the temperature of the soil, then temperature of the boreholes. So in that case, it becomes difficult to measure it by using the thermometers or these type of sensors. So in that case, we should have the different types of or the special type of sensors. So we will see what are those different or the special types of sensors. So such temperature meters are used in the geotechnical field to monitor the concrete structures, temperature of soil, temperature of water, bridges, etc. So we will see, and the temperature of such structures or dams or bridges, they change with respect to the variation in the season. Now we will see how that is the temperature sensor work or the functions. So a thermocouple, which is made from two dissimilar metals that are used in those metal plates are used in the design of this particular thermocouple, and an electric voltage that makes the change in the temperature. So a resistance temperature detector, that is particularly known as RTD, is used, and this is a variable resistor which changes its electrical resistance in directly proportional to the change in the temperature. So The working of a temperature meter depends on the voltage across the diode. Basically, a diode is used in the construction of such thermocouple, and as depending on the changes in the temperature, the resistance between the two lids of the diode changes, and that particular change is directly proportional to the diode resistance. Hence, now we have seen that is how difficult it is to measure the temperature of a structure or a building or we can see whenever you want to whenever you want to measure the temperature of such large buildings, etc. So it becomes very difficult to reach that particular unit, and hence we make use of special type of sensors, and that hence we can classify these temperature sensors as contact sensor and non-contact sensors. So usually the contact sensors have to be attached with the object where you want to measure the temperature, and non-contact, so for the contact sensor it makes use of the thermocouples and the thermistors, whereas in case of non-contact, how the temperature is measured in that case? Through the thermal radiation, because the sensors cannot be attached to the object, because going very near to the nuclear nuclear power unit is very difficult and dangerous. So sensors cannot be installed there. So in that case, sensors are not installed in the particular unit, nuclear power unit, but from the radiation, from the thermal radiation, the sensors from a long distance, they have the capacity to collect the temperature or to measure the temperature through the thermal radiation. So in this way, we can have two different types of temperature sensors, that is contact and non-contact sensors. So the non-contact sensors are used wherever it is not possible to attach these temperature sensors to the particular object. Next is the infrared sensor. So infrared sensor, it is also a type of electronic instrument which is used to sense certain characteristics from its surroundings. So how it measures them? So it is particularly is used to measure the object movement. So how this is done? First it has to sense the object movement. So it does this by either emitting or detecting the infrared radiation. So whenever there is any movement of a particular object, the infrared sensors, they can detect it either by emitting or by detecting the infrared radiation. So you can see the diagram of the infrared sensors. These are also capable of measuring the heat that is dissipated or emitted by a particular object, and hence it detects its motion. From the radiation, through the radiation by the object, it can identify the motion of a particular object. Now, there are two types of sensors again. There are two types of infrared sensors which are active and passive. Now, we know that there are different types of active and passive components in our electronics. So you might have the idea about the difference between the active and the passive components. So similarly, even these resistors are classified as the active and passive. So in case of active sensors, the active sensors can emit and detect. They can perform both the functions. That is, they can perform the emitting and the detection of infrared radiation. In order to measure the movement of a particular object, then first it has to emit the light, and then it has to emit the radiation and then detect it. But there are some passive sensors which do not have the capacity to emit, but they can detect. So for the emitting, they make use of the LEDs, that is the light emitting diodes are used for emitting, and they have a receiver. That is, in case of active sensors, they have both, that is an LED as well as a receiver. So the active sensors, active infrared sensors, they have the capacity of both emitting and detecting, and for emitting they make use of LED, and for detecting they make use of a receiver. Whereas passive sensors, they do not have the LEDs, but those LEDs are off, and they are detected only by the receiver. So they do not have the capacity of emitting, but they have only the capacity to detect through the receiver. So the active IR sensors act as the proximity sensors, and they are usually used in the sensing of or in the detection of the obstacles. So in case of the robots, whenever the robots are performing the role of a supervisor. Now suppose if any body or any object moves in between, then the robots make use of these type of sensors, IR sensors. The robots make use of IR sensors to detect the motion of a particular object. So in this way, the infrared sensors are useful for detecting the motion of a particular object. Then the next sensors are the ultrasonic sensors. So these are actually called the transducers, and even the ultrasonic sensors are also are also capable of identifying the motion of the object. So to detect the motion of the object, either we can make use of the infrared, or else we can make use of the ultrasonic sensors. So these are called transducers, and these can measure the reflection of a moving object. And when it finds out a movement of a particular object, it vibrates with a certain spectrum of frequencies, and it produces the sound waves, and hence the motion of the object is detected with these echo patterns. So you can see the diagram of a ultrasonic sensor which helps to detect the motion of a particular object. Then the last sensor that we are going to discuss is the light dependent resistor, that is the LDR. In our many physics experiment, I think we have used LDR. So even you might be familiar with the use of LDR. So light dependent resistor, or it is also known as a photoresistor or a cadmium sulfide CD cell. Many times I think we might have used even the cadmium cell also, this particular word. And the passive component, that is basically a resistor here. In case of these sensors, we are making use of the resistance again, and resistor is a passive device. Which the active and the passive device. What is the difference between active and passive device? The active devices perform some function on its own, like it may be the conversion or amplification, etc. But oscillation, if a device can perform some function on its own, then we can classify them as an active component. But when a component which cannot perform anything on its own, then we call them as a passive component. Like for example, the transistor, diodes are all examples of active components. Like transistor can be used as an amplifier, transistor can be used for oscillation, etc. And even the diode. But the passive components like resistance, capacitance, inductance, they cannot do anything on its own. So to get some function from the electronic circuit, you need to make use of active as well as passive components. So now for example, if you take a resistor, what the resistor does? A resistor opposes the flow of current. It means that it restricts. That is, the resistance is indirectly proportional to voltage. So like that, it can contribute something, but it cannot perform any function on its own, like how the transistor, the diode does. So in this way, here also the resistance, the value of the resistance changes with respect to the light. So some of its applications include the camera light meters, street lights, clock radios, light beam alarms, reflective smoke alarms, and outdoor clocks. So in this way, the light dependent resistor, as the name indicates, whenever the light falls on this particular component or the device, its resistance decreases. So again, there is a linear variation, and variation in the resistance with the changing light intensity. You can see that this is a linear curve. So as the resistance, so the light intensity as it goes on increasing, this is decreasing. So in this way, the resistance, it varies with respect to the light intensity. So this is when the intensity of the light decreases, the value of the resistance decreases. This is also known as the, or an example of the optoelectronic device. So the most common type of LDR, it has a resistance which falls within an increased light intensity. Now for the resistance of an LDR, in case of daylight, it is measured as 5,000 ohms, and in case of dark, it is this value. And applications of the LDRs include the lighting switch and the automatic turn on of a light at a certain light level. So street light or a garden light. So as soon as the sunlight intensity decreases, that is during the evening time, the light will be automatically on. The light will automatically on. So what is the reason for this? Because that particular light makes use of the light dependent resistance. The LDRs are used in the street lights, and it can also be used to control the shutter speed on a camera, and it can be used to measure the light intensity which adjusts the camera shutter speed to the appropriate level. In this way, they are used in the light dependent resistors. The LDR can be used in street lights, can be used in the camera light, etc. So the LDR is the most commonly used the sensor. LDR is a most commonly used ultrasonic sensor, the